Hello, benevolent beings. This video is going to be answering questions that some of you have sent me. I'm really happy about that. If there's something that you would like me to talk about in a future video, you can send me an email, you can write a question, or let me know in the comments. I love creating content inspired by you. So this is one of those videos. The question comes from one of my students and clients, and she was asking specifically about our ego. Do I think that the ego is part of ourself or something separate? She said someone she knows is always talking about the ego, putting it down, talking about how bad and negative the ego is, and she wanted to know what my thoughts were. And I love this question. She's right. The ego is a really essential part of being human. It is our conscious mind. It is a part of us that, as much as it's our conscious mind, like it's the part of me that, well, it's part of the part of me that is talking to you right now. There's also unconscious coming through. And a lot of my videos are very much inspired. They come to me during meditation and in the shower, and they're so clear that I almost can't really take credit for some of the inspiration that comes through in those videos. But a lot of what I share is cognitive information that I've learned through my experiences, from my work with clients, through books and other teachers and things like that. It kind of all blends together and integrates together to become the wisdom that I share. And so my ego is the part of me that is able to communicate that with you. My ego is the part of me that has an identity. And so without that, I wouldn't be able to have this YouTube channel, because part of my identity is this person who has information that is worthy of sharing, who thinks that maybe some people are interested in listening. My ego says that I'm a teacher and that I'm spiritual and all of those things, that I'm a mother. So your ego holds on to the labels that make up your identity of who you are. So you can't have a human existence without having an ego, and nor should you want to. And here's why. Yes, your ego can get you into trouble. When you're, for example, engaging in conflict with someone, that's ego interaction, right? So this would what we would call a negative aspect of the ego. But again, positive and negative, it's all in perspective. So if I'm engaging in conflict with somebody, I have a position that disagrees with their position. And so I might say, I'm right and you're wrong. And they'll say, no, I'm right and you're wrong. So we're having egos that are butting up against each other in conflict. And sure, we would live a more peaceful life if we didn't have egos that had different perspectives, but who would we be? As a human, having a human experience, without our ego, how would we have these kinds of experiences that help us to evolve and grow? I believe that the whole point of this human experience is to wake up gradually. So as much as some people think that you can sort of wake up overnight, it's actually really interesting. As somebody who's been on a self-growth and healing journey for a couple of decades, I've never seen so many people claim to just wake up overnight as has happened in the last year. And that's an ego observation and judgment. Although I am sharing it, like I feel it as an observation. It's just something that I've noticed, like, wow, the word awakening and waking up and being woke is being said much more now in the last year or two than in the whole 2 decades combined. I think that's a good thing, but what's kind of getting lost is that the waking up process is actually a very gradual process, and it's not one direction. And this is my experience. So take what you resonate and leave the rest. But I experience waking up as something that happens in steps, which can go forward and then backward. I have experiences where I feel very awake, very aware, where I can observe without judgment. I feel like that is very much an absence of a lot of ego in that moment, to be able to observe things and see them as they are without labeling them as good and bad, for example. But then I can regress back very easily when I'm triggered and be very unconscious in my actions and interactions and my handling of a certain situation. And then I can catch myself and intentionally choose to wake up about it a little bit more and really reflect on myself and what I can own and what does this mean about me and what needs healing in me. What is this wound that is waking up and taking over the show? So I'm becoming more awake again. And so I think you can see what I'm saying, that this waking up is a growth pattern, that as much as we can do things to deliberately make it happen faster, it's still not something that just happens because you read one book or, watch a few videos or anything like that. It is a healing journey. And we need the ego's help to have those kinds of experiences so that we can wake up. It's not about seeing reality in a certain way. If waking up was about, oh my gosh, I thought reality was like this, but actually all of this is the real story. If we're still engaged in a story where we're just switching from like one story of reality to another story of reality, we're still getting caught up in the judgment of stories. So that's not really waking up. It's shifting our fear from one experience of how the world works, governments, whatever, to another fear-based experience of how the world works. And calling that waking up is kind of missing the point, because when you are waking up, you actually realize, as the ego gets a little more balanced with the subconscious or unconscious or higher self, as there's more balance there, we come to realize that like a lot of this stuff doesn't actually matter. And that can be really triggering for some people. But we're talking on like a higher soul level. The stories are all our process of waking up, and we go through all of these pain experiences to give us opportunities to heal and grow and evolve and wake up. But when we're most awake, we don't get caught up in the drama, all of that. So if the ego is engaged in a story and sees a lot of judgment, if there's finger pointing going on, then it's still ego. So I'm not sure if that fully answers the question that you were asking me, but again, let me know in the comments. We can expand on this again. But yes, I think that the ego is a part of us, and I would never want to deny my ego any more than I would deny my leg. My leg serves me as a human. It might not as a soul, right? So after this human experience, if I leave this body, or when I leave this body, I'll be a soul. I won't have need for these pieces, but we incarnated here in the physical world for a physical experience, for an unconscious experience, to be asleep and gradually wake up over many lifetimes, not just in one lifetime. And so enjoy your experience being human. Enjoy your experience having an ego. Just become more aware of it. Observe yourself in judgment. You can still have judgment. That's a very human thing to do, to judge something as good or as bad. The goal is to develop an awareness of it, to notice like, oh, I'm in judgment right now. How human of me. And to love yourself as a human, because you are human for a small period of time, many times, but you might as well enjoy the physical experience of being human while you're here.